Can you hear me now? How about that? Can you let me know in the chat, please, if you can hear me okay? How are you doing, April? Can anyone tell me if you can hear me? Okay, great. Thanks for letting me know. We've already spent 40 seconds now of our live stream just fixing a technical problem, which was just the microphone adapter wasn't plugged in properly. So how are you all doing? I'm Martin from Gardens for Life in Birdland Homestead, and we are here for online for our 11th questions and answer sessions. And we've had quite a few already. And if you'd like to ask any questions, don't mind the noise. That's just the heater. You see the heater here? Where is it here? That's our diesel heater, which heats the studio. Of course, it does a very good job, and it's just finishing now. I just turned it off. I have a remote control for it here, so it won't interfere in the live stream now. So we'll just wait for people to join for a few minutes. And in the meantime, if you have any questions at all, just let me know, and just type the word question at the start of it, or at least make the first couple of words of your question caps. Write it in capital letters, just so we know that the question is dedicated towards me, and I'll try to answer them for you. Now, our temperatures have dropped here in Ireland, so it was actually quite warm there for the first half of June, and then we're back to 12 degrees now, and even at nighttime it's getting quite cold now. I've had to wear a jacket actually this evening already, and the t-shirt weather is over, lads. It was nice while it lasted. Hopefully we'll get another long warm period like we had a couple of years ago. That was nice when it wasn't raining non-stop for 3 weeks. It was lovely and warm, and we got a lot done out there. Although during the day, at lunchtime, when it got really hot here, we weren't able to do much work outside, especially in the middle of the day. Like for about 3 hours, basically, it was just too hot to get things done out there. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. We have a lot of workshops actually coming up, and let me just put on the banner for that. So we have some workshops actually scheduled for 2 or 3 weeks from now, and I'll just tell you about them real quick while we wait for more people to join, and we'll hopefully get some questions from people as well that I'll try to answer. Anything that you'd want to know about, either about business, even how to start a business, or plants, or tubers, or growing food, or preserving it, or anything to do with homesteading as well, or tools. No. So we have our chicken workshop coming up again. So how to keep chickens for egg production in your backyard, which is always good. You can convert grains and greens to eggs. So you can have a steady supply of fresh eggs, and you don't have to worry about the chickens not having enough room in where they're grown in the factories. So if you keep your chickens in your garden, you'll have a lot more space for them, and they'll live a lot better life as well. So also a pressure canning course coming up, and we also are going to be teaching how to grow food using no-dig and forest gardening, and plant propagation, of course, has to be in there too. How to grow plants from cuttings, from seed, and everything in between. So our country winemaking course has gone very well, but the spaces are very limited. So if you guys are interested, just take a look at our website. And this is the website here. So thank you guys for joining. Please let me know if you have any questions. I see Mike has a question here. I assume you mean how useful will the winemaking course be for making mead? Well, actually, it's the same principle, Mike. When you're making wine, you're only adding the sugar as a fuel, basically, for the bacteria to eat. And you're adding flavor in the form of flowers or fruit or berries or leaves sometimes as well, or even rhubarb stems as well. So with a mead, you can actually just add the honey on its own, and that gives you the flavor. And let me just see here. Sorry, no, I just thought I saw something out there. When you use mead, it seems like a bit of a waste because you're using so much honey. You're using about 1.5 kilos of honey per gallon, and it seems like a bit of a waste. But at the same time, the product was pretty good. So, what did you think of the mead at that time? Another question: what plant labels or markers do you use? Well, that's a good question, Chris. I've gone through all of the different options. Like I think. Honestly, I've been using plastic labels for years, and they're not great. Even the good quality white ones with a Sharpie, you can write on them, but they only last for 1 to 2 years, and then they either become brittle or they dry out in the greenhouse. The UV probably also turns them brittle as well, but it also, the rain washes away the paint eventually. So that's good because then you can use it again. But the trouble is they don't last that long. I think probably leaving them in the greenhouse, storing them in the greenhouse is not a good place. But at the same time, you can wash them off too. You could use probably some kind of solvent to actually wash the paint off them and reuse them again. But again, ice cream popsicle sticks or whatever, ice cream sticks, like wooden ones, they're fine. They work grand and they're decomposable. You can use a ball pen to write on them, and then even if when the ink actually perishes, you can still see it if you hold it up against the sun. So yeah, for labels, it's not that easy now. You can also use vinyl labels as well. I've had cheaper ones and the good ones. So the good vinyl labels will last forever, pretty much. Well, nothing lasts forever. But I guess it's going to last for at least 10 or 15 years, especially for tree labels. Those are perfect. And I have used them, and I use them for crates as well. I have different varieties of mint, for example, in crates, so that I keep them separate. And I actually label each of those crates with a vinyl label, basically. And I just have it so that the part where I wrote, the ink part, is underneath, so that the rain doesn't wash it off. So I see we're in trouble here on Twitter for some reason, or X as they call it these days. We don't seem to be streaming to there at the moment. I'm not too sure why. Let me see here if I can fix that. And sure enough, we are now live on Twitter as well. We have a rather small audience over there. I think we've only got like 70 or 80 followers. And after all these years of putting out content over there, but sure, that's the way it goes. Our Facebook page is still going anyway, and it's not very active though with users, but YouTube is probably our main outlet at the moment. Just to let you know roughly what our proportions are. We also have people actually, we have an email list as well, so people get notified when there's something new happening on our website or on our YouTube channel, for example. We're also on Odyssey and Rumble as well, although Rumble is not auto-syncing, so I'm not too sure what to do about that. Odyssey is great though, because it auto-syncs your entire YouTube channel automatically, so you have a backup in case the YouTube channel ever goes away. So that's awesome. Yeah, if you guys have any questions about gardening, I mean, I'll just let you know exactly what I was at in the last week. Mainly putting up weeds like grasses that are going to seed now, and the nettles are also starting to go to seed. So I'm pulling those up as much as I can. I'm putting in extra effort now this year trying to clean up the whole garden. Definitely going to cover the whole garden with wood chips eventually, but I'm going to just take it one garden at a time, one section at a time. And I'm going to just reduce the maintenance a good bit, because last year I did do a bit of weeding, but a lot of those weeds still came back eventually. I mean, but then again, I'm trying to manage about 1.5 acres of gardens, maybe nearly 2 acres. So it's quite a lot to manage. And we are also expanding the garden as well at the moment. Our friendly neighbor Brendan actually helped us move the compost, mushroom compost, well aged, and we started a new garden. And I'll be putting out a new video on the planting part of it next. So we had spreading the compost now, and we have a little mini series on our website and our YouTube channel as well. Just how to start, or start in a no-dig garden. And the next video is going to be planting. So it's an interesting one. That actually happened a week ago now. I need to get to it. How are you doing, Steve? Thank you for joining. So I think the foundation is done for the new garden. It's not that big a garden, but it's an expansion, and we're going to expand it further now. So one bit at a time. Maybe 10 by 10 meters at a time or something like that. Sorry, let me see now. There was a couple of comments here. So we had the plant labels. Let me see here. How much do you pay for your wood chips? Well, that's a very good question. Depends. A full silage trailer load, which is a massive amount of wood chips, 300-ish, depending on how far he has to drive with the tractor. And let me tell you now, Mike, it takes some serious amount of trees to make a silage trailer load of wood chips. That's even more in volume than a lorry, like a tipper lorry, or a 3-axle one, is it, or 6-axis? I don't remember. 3-axis, of course. I'd say I was last time I got it now, it was pure willow, and it was the entire tree, but it was during the winter, so there was no leaves in it, so that wouldn't have. If you get wood chips delivered in the summertime, of course, if it's deciduous trees or hardwoods, you will end up with leaves in it, inevitably, and you are going to end up with wood chips that will rot away quicker. And by rotten, I mean get consumed by the local ecosystem, including the soil life. So if you want the wood chips to last longer, if they're for paths, for example, or for an area that you want to sit down in, or in front of a greenhouse or whatever, if you want those wood chips to last longer, get them in the winter time. But if you want them to turn into compost quicker, the soil life will turn the wood chips into compost one way or another, especially the mycelia, like the winecap mushroom. It actually really helps to break down all that carbon in the wood chips, and it makes it available to the plants. And it is actually a symbiotic mushroom as well. So King Stropharia or winecap mushroom, we need to grow a new batch of that. And see, now I did actually see some popping up here and there. So let me see now. So here's another question. The biggest challenge moving from a job to a full-time business? Well, the biggest challenge is hanging on to the job while you work yourself out of a job, as in you no longer have the time to actually do the job. So you basically need to work 2 full-time jobs, as in treat the business as another full-time job. And it's really hard, like when finally the business will get so busy that the business is just as busy or making just as much money also as the full-time job. And there's usually a bit of a balance there. You could do it, I mean, the two also can, depending on what your job is, you can maybe listen to podcasts while you're doing your job, if it's something like that, or maybe you can do other research in between calls as well. So in general, you can try and start a business small on the side, and then build it up to a level where it allows you to extract yourself from the job market. So I'm certainly not coming back to work in computers, and I'm not coming back, although I don't mind actually doing it. I like working on computers, but I'd rather not. I'd rather do gardening and homesteading, and I'd rather spend more time outside rather than spending Monday to Friday, the best hours of the day, indoors in front of a computer. Can't be good for you. We have a nice, lovely studio here in the middle of our little forest beside our homestead or house, and And we get lovely daylight coming in here. There's a big panoramic kind of a window here right in front of me on the other side of the camera. And yeah, no, in general, it was actually a relief to let the job go, but at the same time, you feel lighter. But it's a bit of a, how should I say? There's the uncertainty. You have to embrace the uncertainty. And actually, when you have a business, you have more certainty if you have the confidence in it. Not necessarily to produce content like videos or whatever. I'm talking about, think about it, a job is actually quite risky when you think about it. It's just a single source of income, and a business, there is like 100 sources of income, whatever your customers are. So, you know, it's, in general, mainly you just have to take the responsibility for yourself, financially, both, and to become useful to the rest of the economy, basically. Any recommendations for soil mixes for large pots when I use only compost that dries out too fast? Well, I did make a video a long time ago. You can you basically mainly use, you can do a wicking pot where you have a bit of water in the bottom and you have a pipe coming out the side just for the overflow. And you can have a sand layer even between, but it's all too complicated. All I do, Chris, is with large pots, I fill them up with compost, or aged mushroom compost, for example. And you could mix in a bit of potting soil. That would make it hold the water a lot longer, especially the Classman potting soil, any of them really, and mix it through. And I found out that those pots that I did, even smaller ones, like 2 or 3 liter ones, in the greenhouse on a table, even in the heat, they keep the water a lot better. So they hold the water for 24 hours rather than half a day and then the plants go dry. But in very large pots, I'd add a little bit of potting soil to your pure compost, and then add a layer of wood chips on top. Maybe about a couple of inches of wood chips is fine, and that'll stop the water from evaporating. Like say the sun, you don't want the sun hitting the soil directly on the pot, in the top of the pot, because the UV, of course, will kill the soil life, but also dry out, the heat will dry out the pots as well. Now we have another question. Jeez, we've all the questions coming out today. Any tips on growing grapevines, especially at the start of the season when it tries to make lots of shoots and new branches? Well, I'm probably the worst person to ask, Mike, about training fruit trees or grapevines or kiwis or figs even. We have all the above, but however, all I did was actually just run a central leader along so that you have it, the grape, for example, or the kiwi, any vines really, you can run a central leader along, say, the inside of the greenhouse, just to put it up there, and then you have to cut back all the side shoots at the very end of the season, let's say in December or whatever, in winter, just to get new shoots coming out. Everywhere there's a new shoot coming out, like a leaf bud, it's going to make a new branch, and it's going to make a bunch of flowers. And on our grape, if you remember it from September last year, I showed it in some of the videos at the very beginning. No, sorry, the end of August, actually, that was. The amount of grapes we had in the greenhouse, we had them hanging everywhere behind me there. And we're just eating them fresh, by the way. We didn't make any wine from them now. It's only, I mean, maybe we could make a gallon of wine from it, but we'd rather eat the grapes fresh. We'd rather eat like 10 liters or 10 kilos worth of grapes. And they're really nice, actually. I can't imagine what the wine would be like from them. I would definitely suggest cutting the grapevine back to the bare minimum, just the bare skeleton, and just have a central leader or have several central leaders, as in just large. You want to reduce the number of vines anyway in the winter time so that it doesn't leaf out too many branches and make too many bunches of flowers. We'll see what happens. I'll make a video about the grape in this greenhouse. Actually, it's just behind me here, outside the studio. And I'm going to make a video about it and check how many bunches of flowers it has. I think it might actually not, I don't know if the greenhouse can certainly take the weight of the grapes. when they're in full bloom and actually ripening. But the bars and the wires, we used, you can use farm wire, like fencing wire, high tensile wire, for example, to make a bit of a trellis for the grapes. And that's all we did. And we tie it on with some twine. But you can also use paracord, which is what we used. And I'm not sure how UV-proof that is, though. It seems to be working fine anyway. And I also coincidentally used paracord, you know, for camping and for bushcraft and that kind of thing, paracords. I used some for the lawnmower, actually, to change the wire, you know, the starter cable. So I had to change that, and I used the paracord. It seems to be working great now, and it's very strong as well. How to grow figs? Well, you have to, either you get cuttings and you root them, then you plant them, or you have to buy a tree. Trees are expensive. You can probably get them for about 10 or 15 euro or something like that for like a 1 or 2 year old tree. And you can plant those indoors. Indoors, you're better off because the figs love the heat and they grow twice as fast, in our experience, with inside the polytunnel, basically. If you wanted to go to fruit, most people say you have to restrict the root zone or do something else, I say, about making the plant stressed so it goes to fruit. Apparently fig trees, when they feel comfortable, they don't ever fruit. So if people have giant fig trees but no figs at all. So in our greenhouse, especially the one up the road, is actually, it is full of fig trees. Like there's maybe 10 fig trees or 12 in it, and they're completely full of figs, and it's great. But I think they were making figs or fruiting because they were under stress, because we didn't water them enough. So not watering a fig tree will also help produce fruit if you already have fig trees. And also you can take cuttings then from your plant. I'm just taking the ideal time actually of the year to take a hardwood cutting for figs and gooseberries is at the very end of the winter, when the leaf buds are just about to pop. Then you have the most resin gone up from the root of the plant, and it will have the best chances of actually rooting. So that's when the cambium layer, the green layer under the outer bark, is most active, and it's also got the most stem cells in it, especially if you keep a heel. But anyway, that's another story. We have a plant propagation course coming up. Not saying you should go, but if anyone else here is nearby, if you're interested in that type of thing, we'll teach you all that in detail and in person. Sorry, I meant, Chris saying, sorry, I meant how to make your fig tree produce, or how to make your tree produce a lot of figs. Well, I just answered that, I suppose. Maybe that came in a little bit with a bit of a time delay. Again, you have to stress the tree for it to produce figs, but it's good for the tree to build up strength for a few years first. Let me see. Wow, you can put fig trees, you can store fig cuttings in the fridge for up to a year and they remain viable. Wow. Can you do the same thing with berry bushes as well? Like say all the currants or the gooseberries or the, well, with raspberries we don't do cuttings, but willows for certain. I think if you keep those cold and moist and dark, I think you could keep any of these cuttings, as long as you can cut out the mold. If you can make sure that there is no mold in your fridge or walk-in freezer, or walk-in fridge, I should say. A friend of ours actually at the Bull on Ark in Loughrea has a walk-in cooler, and it's awesome. It just keeps the temperature constant at 5 degrees Celsius, even if it's colder than that outside. Let's say, I was asking him actually whether the freezer, the walk-in cooler got too cold, and maybe it froze even at -9 degrees outside. He said it didn't, so that's good. So we'd like to get one of those at some point, and we can store our tubers a lot longer as well, like the Jerusalem artichokes, all the tubers actually. It'd be nice to have a a cool, dark, rodent-free place for all of our produce and all the perennial vegetables as well. So I see Chris saying here, I pruned my fig last year at the end of the summer, so they wouldn't root on time. Yeah. So yeah, that's always a problem when you take cuttings. I think from September onwards, there's no point in doing cuttings, because any kind of cuttings at all, even semi-hardwood cuttings. I mean, if it's a mild autumn, it'll be fine. It'll still root enough for it to survive the winter. But I found, in my experience, a lot of cuttings don't survive the winter unless you rooted them fairly well beforehand. And you can always root them and then just keep them somewhere else, like heal them in the greenhouse or something like that. Here's a question here in reference to the figs. What size of pots do you use for your trees? We don't have any figs in pots except when we start them off. So fig cuttings you can do in half-liter pots are fine, the square ones especially. And we just do pot and soil, or pot and compost, seed starting compost, I should call it. And basically just keep them moist in their root. And then when they get big enough, you can either put them in a bigger pot to grow them on, say a 2 or 3 liter pot for 1 year. And or you can just plant them out in the soil, either outside or in the greenhouse. So you could also grow figs in big pots as well, but I'm not a big fan of any pot that's bigger than what I can, or heavier than I can lift, like say 35 liters. I mean, I think if you can't grow a plant in a 30-liter pot or 35-liter pot, I think it's probably better off in the ground, unless you're renting and you want to keep all your plants in pots. And I can completely understand that if you're still looking to move your plants on, or if you're not allowed to even have a garden where you live, and you can still keep all of your plants in pots. I would recommend as big a pot as possible, but you can always start off with like a bucket size, let's say 12 liter, 15 liter. And if the tree gets bigger than say a meter tall, for example, you could probably upgrade that to a 30 liter or more. Now, have you any plans to make an underground pantry? Well, a root cellar would be lovely. I seen Simple Living Alaska, a video from them a couple of years ago, and they have a lovely a pantry that's actually underground, but they need it underground because where they live, there's temperatures of minus 25 degrees Celsius. So, well, a pantry would be lovely. We're on the hill here, so we could probably do it, but I'd say as soon as you dig more than a meter down or so, you'll probably end up hitting rock as well. So it's probably too much hassle, really. You might be better off, Mike, with I mean, a root cellar would be nice because it regulates the temperature. You don't need to buy insulation. You know, there's all these advantages, actually. It's a lot more natural. All you need is a digger, really, and some kind of roof over it. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I've seen videos of them being built, but I think a walk-in cooler is more practical for what we do because we can, yeah, it's just easier to access as well. Now, let me see here. Chris here is saying, for those of you on the audio, we are also actually putting these out as audio podcasts on our website shortly. My figs are in 50-liter pots for 6 years, and they're still fine. Great, good to know. Awesome. We have actually got some olive trees in pots as well, and they're in 30-liter pots, and they're in there for 6 years now. And they're doing okay, but we keep pruning them back. They're not. I think I'm just going to plant them in the ground. So yeah, maybe your figs in northwestern New York, that's upstate New York, I assume, is the winters are too cold. Well, I had some figs. We had minus temperatures of minus 9 degrees Celsius. Not sure what that is in Fahrenheit. But we are zone 9. What are we? Does anyone know, Mike, Chris? 9A, I think we are, in terms of USDA temperature zones or climate zones. And I think we're experiencing quite harsh winters here. Last winter wasn't too bad, but the winter before that we had very cold temperatures for about 10 days and everything froze completely. So actually I lost all my yacon that year, but mainly because I didn't collect them on time. I would also I'd say, I lost some of my figs as well. The Bordeaux fig from France, Rouge de Bordeaux, it's called, the variety. I lost that. That was planted outside. I had some other ones planted too. The Polonias died back to the ground, actually, and the trees are coming back now. They're getting very big now. They're getting stronger, actually. Off to a weak start, the Polonia trees. But we have 3 big ones in the garden, so we're very excited about that. My wife Bianca's in the background here, and she actually grew some of them from seed. So, Bianca, we need to grow more Polonia trees. Put that on the list. The to-do list, which is about this long. Sepp Holzer is great. We love Sepp Holzer's work. Sepp Holzer is a farmer in the Alps, the coldest part of the Alps, actually, in Austria. And he does something called permaculture. While they actually came to him and said, would you call what you're doing permaculture? And he said, okay, fine. And he's been doing it since probably 1950s, sometime around then, when he was only a child. And his root cellars are awesome. He has a lot of slope, though. He lives on a very steep, how do I put it? A very steep slope, and he put terraces in so that he can drive on it or even walk on it. The terraces basically catch the heat and catch the fertility, whereas all of the fertility would have been running down the hill with the runoff, the rain. And now he's catching it all in ponds and little connections between them. And his root cellars are awesome. He also has built shelters for his pigs as well. Basically just a roof and cut into with a digger, digging into the slope, taking away some and having a little platform then and build a little roof over it. So these would be substantial roofs covered in soil, so living roofs, and he used logs from his own land to build them as well, so pine logs. Now, let me see. So April here is saying, average lows in my area in the winter are -30 with many feet of snow. Oh, Jesus. I don't know if I'd want to live in a country where it gets cold enough for like, even having to shovel snow for like several months of the year. We get about a week of snow here in Ireland, on average per year. And sometimes only 1 day or 2 days of a little bit of snow. The most snow we got here was a few years ago. When was that, lads? About probably 5 years ago. We had this much snow, 4 inches, I'd say, or 10 centimeters or so. But in places there was snow drifts as well, where the snow was blown across the fields, and it was actually just basically being blocked by walls. And then there was like piles of snow, maybe what's it in feet? Maybe 20 feet or 6 meters tall over the road. Luckily, all the farmers here have heavy equipment, and they're able to just scoop it away. Yeah, no, that's about as much snow as we ever had here. Chris, we do not sell fig trees yet. We don't have enough cuttings. I've been keeping figs for 7 years now, and brown turkey is probably the best one for outside, if you're looking to grow them outside. If you're looking to grow them inside, it doesn't really matter what variety. It depends on your own personal preference at that point. I've got Desert King, which was recommended by a man that you probably know. If you know Sepp Holzer, you probably know, not Paul Wheaton, Paul Gauci, with the Back to Eden gardening method, basically just wood chips. He recommended, or he's growing Desert King, so I got some of those. And Black Mission is another one, and Persian Black is another fig variety. And I've got the brown turkey as well. But there's also a fig tree growing in Galway City, and it's a very big old fig tree. It's huge, so I've heard, and it's just over the water. It's kind of just leaning over the water where the river flows through. And I've managed to get a cutting off that tree from a friend, and we have some of those growing now too. So I must actually multiply them. So Chris, there's something really exciting actually about figs. I'm just doing softwood cuttings of figs for the first time right now. And so I just took them by the heel. You know the heel, when you keep a heel when you're pulling it, instead of using secateurs to snip the cutting, you just pull it off the main branch. And then I just left them that long, and I had a tiny leaf and another leaf slightly bigger kept on. The rest of the leaves I stripped off, put those into half-liter pots in potting soil or seed starting soil, and put them indoors on a windowsill at a constant 20 degrees, like just how room temperature, whatever. In the greenhouse, I think it gets too cold at night and too hot during the day. I think you're better off to root cuttings this time of year in the house, although even outside during the summer is fine as long as you put them in the shade somewhere. They don't need sunlight. So what happened was they kind of, so these fig cuttings, they're softwood cuttings, so that means they can dry out very easily and very quickly, but they have way more cambium layer in them, so they might root much quicker. So at first they drooped, and the biggest leaf drooped as well, so I cut those off, and now they're standing up again. So hopefully those will root, and if they do, I'll make a video about it, and I'm going to let you guys know you can grow fig trees from softwood cuttings. I think they'll root, and if that works, that little experiment, well, we can grow loads of fig cuttings even if we miss the hardwood season, which is a very specific period, just when the leaf buds open on your fig tree. You will be able to take cuttings and actually stick those into pots or straight in the ground. But if you miss that brief period in time every year, which happens every year, so maybe several weeks you could do it for, well, then there is a second option for you, and you get a chance to grow fig trees, new fresh fig trees, I think all the way from right around now. I've got enough softwood or new wood on our fig trees now, maybe like 6 inches worth or 15 centimeters, and well worth doing a nice big cutting from. And if I take those, I'm sure the tree will find another place to root from or to branch out from. So I'm not going to take all of the branches off the tree either, but we'll see. It might be a way to produce a few hundred fig trees rather quickly. At first, I may not sell any of them because I'd rather have them just plant them around the place, even outside, just to experiment with them and make videos about them as well. The figs are really good, though. We had some figs there. Every year we get a few figs. Every year we get lots of grapes. Last year we got lots of grapes for the first time. Kiwis, we didn't have any yet, but we're growing some Isai. That's the hardy kiwi that's self-fertile. It's a green one, so the birds don't pick them. Not as much anyway as if they were red when they ripen. Any kind of green fruit, excuse me. Any kind of green fruit that ripens green, like the green hinonmaki, the Japanese gooseberry, the birds don't take them unless they figure it out. They might do, but most of the time we get to eat them all. We don't actually grow any mulberries. I've had a couple of trees. I planted them and they didn't do well, and they perished eventually. But we've got all kinds of different other trees. We have a Sichuan pepper tree. We grew it from seed, and it's like 4 years old now, and it's about 2 meters tall. I'm going to try and get some more seed for Sichuan pepper, so we'll see if we can do that. Mulberries are meant to grow very easily from a cutting. I need to try again. I think I do know, actually, I do know a couple of people who have some mulberry trees I can get some cuttings from, but they're mature trees and they're really difficult to get at way up high, even getting at the branches. I'm not sure if the older wood often will root. Do you know, Chris, can you grow mulberry trees from cuttings? Well, I know you can, but from last year's wood or the year before that? or does it have to be pretty much either hardwood or disused wood? Be interesting now. And thank you, Chris and Mike and everybody else and April for contributing to this little podcast. You never know who might join, and I just want to give people this opportunity to connect with us, and it's nice for us to connect with our audience as well. So and give people a chance to ask any questions they might have that has not been covered in a video or whatever. So we have workshops coming up for those of you interested, in case, even if you're watching this after the live. So I'm going to put this up. You'll always be, these live sessions will always be available to watch afterwards. So if you want to watch older ones, you can do so. And listen to me ramble on for an hour, hopefully about a diverse amount of topics, lots of different topics. So we have some in-person events coming up. So there are workshops and courses. We have self-sufficiency coming up. Now, Mike, just for yourself, I know you were at the homesteading workshop before. We now are not doing the homesteading introduction anymore as a kind of a theoretical course with props. We're now doing a self-sufficiency course instead, and we're covering the topics on briefly. And we're going to do it at our homestead instead, so we can have practical examples as well. I think it'll be much better for people. Cool, Steve. You have a mulberry tree, is it? Is it a black mulberry or a white mulberry or a red one? Some people say don't plant a black mulberry tree near where you park your car. Because the birds will eat them, and even when they drop, they actually leave a mess on your car. Yeah, black mulberries are basically a mulberry, for those of you who don't know what they are. And most of us haven't actually eaten them. I can't actually remember eating them, only dried ones, and they're lovely dried. I used to get them from Holland and Barrett, like in a bag. But obviously a fresh one would be nice to try. I've never actually had one. And I believe that they're a bit like a long raspberry off a tree, kind of like a blackberry, actually. But I guess they're probably sweeter than that. Well, thank you, April, for your comment. And I'm glad that you're enjoying the videos. Hopefully, we can make them entertaining enough for you. I know we often put in dog parts and all of that. We like to entertain people a little bit to keep them watching our videos, and it's it's all part of learning. Yeah, we're going to have the planting video coming up next. I'm probably going to be I have a few different videos. I've actually got a talk as well. We did a talk at in Kiltoom in County Roscommon just there last week, and it was an hour-long talk that I gave, and Bianca was joining in as well. And I have recorded the talk, so I'm going to put it up online if you'd like to listen to it. It was in front of about 50 people, and just talking about gardening, no-dig gardening, and a little bit about homesteading towards the end as well. So I'm going to be putting that up, and hopefully people can take something of value from that. Now we're going for 44 minutes. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. Anything about homesteading, business, gardening, forest gardening, which I'm kind of leaning towards at the moment, because I just kind of hit a limit there. Just doubling my grow spaces, or the garden, every year for the last 6 years, actually 7 years. And last year I definitely hit the limit, because the weeds got out of hand just a little bit, even with my no-dig management and the lasagna garden style, as in putting down a 4-inch layer of wood chips on top of your no-dig beds. And that worked great, but I was very busy last year. So this year, I'm going to be trying to stay on top of it. I've been doing an awful lot of weeding, and I'm going to be covering a lot of the gardens with wood chips as well this year. I'm just going to do it. A lot of the areas are mature anyway at this stage. Like a lot of the berry bushes and fruit trees are maturing, and there's such a diversity. I need to actually do a tour of the big garden, and we'll just, even the garden back here behind our house, we're going to do a tour video of both of them separately, because they'll probably be a half an hour each, most likely. But I don't want to keep people too long either. So we will see you next week. If you like our video, please give us a thumbs up if you're on YouTube or whatever platform you're watching this on. And you're very welcome, Mike. And well, have a great week. Oh, we have another question, real quick. Oh, it's a blueberry question. Oh no, I'm not successful at growing blueberries. I just want to say that straight away. So we planted our blueberry bushes in our garden, which has peaty soil, but the leaves are turning red and they died. What might have been the issue? Most likely the tree had those berry bushes. Were they potted plants? I assume they were potted and not bare root. Most blueberries don't do too well bare root, actually. They suffer severely from transplant shock. But I'm no expert on blueberries because I haven't grown them successfully yet, even though Back to Eden Paul Gauci in Washington State grows them very well in pure wood chips. So maybe he has just about the right conditions. But peaty soil should be fine. I mean, really, blueberries will grow fine, the bushes themselves. They grow okay, even if the soil is not very acidic. The problem is when it comes to fruiting, the tree can only produce fruit and flowers if it's in acidic soil. Otherwise, the leaves will just turn like autumn colors on maples and beech trees, like yellow and red. You want to check, scratch the tree, scratch your blueberry plant's bark somewhere near one of the main stems, and just check, is there any green left? And if there is green under the bark, that's the cambium layer, and that means the plant is still alive. Maybe it just went to sleep, even though it's only spring now, or like a late spring, I guess, early summer. It's hard to know, to be honest with you. I don't know. You'd have to check. But the plant is not dead if it's still green under the bark. Just get a knife or a secateurs and just scratch the bark a little bit and see. If it's brown, forget about it. It's dead. But if it's green, it's still alive. Give it a chance. We don't do soil pH tests or anything like that at all, because actually plants do fine at neutral pH as long as you provide exactly what the plant needs. Again, Paul Gauci is the perfect example. If you type into YouTube, for example, Paul Gauci blueberries, you'll probably get a video of him showing his giant blueberry bushes full of blueberries, even though it's planted into neutral soil. So the soil pH is 7.0, and it is completely neutral. And he has also got a plant that needs extreme alkaline soil, like a flowering shrub, right beside the blueberry, and they both are doing fine. So the pH thing, I'm not too sure. I'm not too overgone on it, because I believe Paul is onto something with his wood chip method, and we're going to be using his all of the knowledge that we gained from watching his tour videos, which we're very blessed with having on YouTube, available for free. We're just adding all of that into our arsenal of techniques that we're going to use to establish our gardens. If you'd like to support us, you can go to our online shop, which is just gardensforlife.ie/shop. We do have some plants there available and things like that, perennial vegetables and cuttings. And we have some courses coming up in person. We also have an online course as well, for those of you interested, about no-dig gardening. But we are going to update that course now in the next coming weeks. And I'm just always looking over here to see all of the different things happening. I've got all the comments coming in here from all the platforms. So again, if you want to see all list of the people that inspired us, you can go to our website as well, gardensforlife.ie, and just type in the search inspire or inspired. and you will find a list that basically many of the people, not all of them probably, we're probably missing one or two, but many of the people around the world that have inspired our gardens, our lifestyle, our homestead. And we're very happy to have them and to continue watching their videos on the internet and listen to their podcasts. We will see you next time, and you'll probably see a new video coming out again tomorrow. I'm going to probably put out the talk, or maybe I'll put out another video first of the planting of the new no-dig garden. That'll be episode 5 on how to start a no-dig garden. We will see you next week for another live session. Thanks for watching. All the best.